Is Supreme actually for sale? This is the question we are asking today. I've been seeing it in the comment section of my videos for the past few days now. I've looked it up, I've done the research, and I'm gonna tell you guys the true story about if VF Corp is actually selling Supreme and everything you need to know, how that impacts us as a community of people who love buying Supreme and more. Let's get right into it. Before we get started, guys, I want to remind you to please hit like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell to stay up to date every time I go live. I do weekly live stream videos talking about Supreme and copping stuff live on camera for the whole world to know. It's insane. It's absolutely crazy. And if you're feeling mentally unhinged, consider becoming a member. Help support the channel, get exclusive chat icons, and more. Thank you so much for your continued support. So we'll start at the very beginning. This is one of the first articles that was written, jingdaily.com. I don't know why I'm on Jing Daily, but it was the first thing that popped up when I searched VF Corp buying Supreme. So VF Corp is a huge conglomerate company that owns brands like North Face, Vans, Timberland. They just own a bunch of brands, and they reportedly valued Supreme at over $2.1 billion, which is crazy because that's almost double when the Carlyle Group invested 50% into their company, valuing Supreme at $1.2 billion. So streetwear is obviously huge. It's extremely big in the US, but this is saying it's big news in China. Interesting that we now have a Chinese store, right? But that's no real surprise. I didn't know this, but I guess Supreme won a big trademark battle to get its logo in China. That's kind of wild. Oh, Taobao was full of counterfeits, and one of the company's largest domestic imitators, Supreme Italia, opened a store in Shanghai. Basically, all you guys need to know is VF Corp bought Supreme for over $2.1 billion in November of 2020. All right, fellas, we're not on StockX, we're on the New York Stock Exchange, so let's make sure we all have our ducks in a row. Now, before I get into this, I have to disclaim something. I do own VF Corp stocks. I do have a financial interest in this stock performing well and Supreme doing well for not only financial reasons as well as this channel's success. So get that out of the way first. If you guys want to get into investing, you can use my Robinhood link in the description down below. It's an affiliate code that gets you a free stock if you are signing up for the first time. Consider it down below. I think investing is one of the most important things you can do starting at a young age. I know a lot of you are older and probably already invest, but if you don't, consider that right there. Okay. Plugs out of the way. This is VF Corp's stock price. Now let's look at the key events right here. VF Corp to buy Supreme for over $2.1 billion. That was Jing Daily, and I guess that's why we were on that website. November 9th of 2020, VF Corp was sitting at a pretty nice $67.2. The volume was 12 million a day, and then it shoots up to November of 2020, $85, and we're just chilling right here. We gotta have ups and downs. VF Corp's digital revenue surges amid the pandemic. So this is when I wasn't buying Supreme. This is when a lot of you guys were going crazy for the pandemic. And then I guess something happens. Throughout 21, we just stopped getting as much hype. The stock is still trading at 35 million in volume. That's insane. But now the average volume is only 6.93. And I believe volume is just how many trades happen per day. Okay. And then we've been, for the past year, we've had a high of 21.17, which looks like right around December of 23, and a low of 11.9. Okay. Let's look at some of these reasons why it might be falling. So I guess it missed some earnings for Vans and North Face. So the last quarter sales of last year saw Vans drop by 21%. I guess that makes a little bit of sense. Do we really see a ton of relevant Vans stuff happening in the streetwear scene right now? Not really. Now, does that have an impact on the entire market share of sneakers, given that Vans is only a small part of it? I actually did take some classes on this in college, so I do know a little bit about how trends work. People like you and people like me tend to be people that are up on trends a little bit faster than the mainstream audience. We spend time researching it. We look at what celebrities are wearing. We buy the latest and greatest cool stuff. You know, maybe I'm not as quick as I used to be on the trends, but I'm still a little bit ahead of the curve because I pay attention to it. I'm interested in it, and it's just exciting for me to get into different trends and clothes and stuff like that. That does affect the overall market. When trendsetters are getting into a certain brand, like let's say the Adidas Samba, that's going to see the Adidas Samba increase in sellout. So Adidas is going to see the Samba is performing well, right? What are they going to do? They're going to continue to push that model out to the everyday consumer. And then eventually, whether it's a year, 6 months, or only 3 months down the line, the Sambas are now selling better because people ended up buying them earlier on and thought they were cool. The same thing happened with the Air Jordan 1. How much do you see the Air Jordan 1 walking around in public? If you walk around in public even a little bit, as much as I do, you see it all the fucking time by people that probably aren't sneakerheads. They're just average everyday consumers. So then if we take all that into mind, VF Corp, which is again so much more than Supreme, is seeing people like you and people like me spending less on their brands. You can even discount Supreme entirely. You can take just like North Face, JanSport, Timberland. If we aren't buying those as much, maybe the general consumers aren't either. What's probably more likely though is that for whatever reason, other brands are cannibalizing and taking some of VF Corp's market share. I swear I will talk about if VF Corp is selling Supreme, but I just want to show you guys how many brands they actually own if you didn't know. We got Vans, North Face, Timberland, Dickies, Ultra, Eastpak, Icebreaker, JanSport, Supreme, Smartwool, Napa, Jiri, and Kapling. I didn't know those last three, but certainly a whole lot. And you can see that the stock right here is down 2.15%. Right, so we've missed some earnings, all right? That's where we're at right now, okay? VF Corp had a cyber attack December of 23, and Vans is a pretty huge part of their company. And then once again, here's the year-to-date stock. Since opening on January 1st of 2024, it was at a 1751. We've gone all the way down to now sitting at around a 1276, and getting those rumors about Supreme being sold definitely aren't making it any better. All right, here we finally are on hypebeast.com talking about VF Corp could be selling Supreme. Now, I'm gonna answer the question directly. The brand hasn't been sold yet, and truly, these are only rumors that have been reported by the WWD, which is the Women's Wear Daily website, magazine, service that I can't see their articles. I can read the title right here. It says VF hired Goldman Sachs to consider selling Supreme. Sources say, right? Not confirmed at all. But when people read this, they think, oh, Supreme is being sold. But truly, they've just hired someone from Goldman Sachs to review their portfolio and see how they can improve their holdings, because obviously, what VF Corp cares about is increasing their stock price for their shareholders to perform well and make profit, because capitalism, baby, let's go. Now, here we go. We have the article on Hypebeast by Aaron Miller. Shout out to Aaron Miller. So they acquired Supreme in 2020 for $2.1 billion, like we said, and they're considering selling it because they've enlisted Goldman Sachs to at least review their portfolio, look at their brands. Doesn't come as a major surprise because they've been open about spinning off parts of their portfolio. They don't comment on market rumors or speculation, says WWD, and Goldman Sachs has declined to comment. That makes sense. Supreme's been on the top of culture for many years, specifically in the high streetwear market. And then Carlyle invested in them in 2017, doubled their money very quickly, which is just crazy because 2017, in my opinion, that's like the end of what I call the golden era, my golden era when I was into Supreme. Call it what you will, but it's just not the same as it used to be back then. And an investment banker working in the fashion realm told WWD the brand got too big to continue to be cool, which that is kind of true. I will say Supreme has been doing super well recently, and I think will absolutely fully bounce back, whatever that means. We still see it every single week here that people are coming out to cop stuff, and it's been overall a pretty good time. We have had some negative press, supply chain issues in 2022, the hiring and firing of Tremaine Emery due to system racial issues. Made a whole video about that. You can check it out in the description about Tremaine Emery. My thoughts have probably changed a little bit, but nevertheless, that's a different story entirely. And then it says, while that might be the case, the company continues to expand globally, recently opening stores in Seoul and Shanghai. Supreme's doing super well, guys. Opening 2 stores in Asia is not cheap, and I think that's really where their global plan is. It's to continue to expand to include the whole world. Asia is a huge part of that. I'd love to see a shop down here in Phoenix or somewhere in the West. That would be dope outside of California. VF reports annual sales of almost 11 billion USD, and these are the other brands we've read earlier. A major player in the fashion industry for years, it has been more active in selling off brands that no longer fit their vision. Okay. New CEO Bracken Darrell joined the company in hopes to trim down the portfolio to ensure that it stays back on track and appears that Supreme might be collateral. Stay tuned for continued information. So what does that mean for people like you and people like me? Well, for people like me who own stock in VF Corp, it could slightly affect the stock portfolio, right? But that's part of investing. It goes up, it goes down. In the long term, I think most companies do all right as long as they're not run by idiots, they have a good board, and they do good business. They tend to do good. What about the consumer? It means jack shit, guys. For one, before Supreme was even owned by any private equity companies, it was dope. It was great, right? Prior to Carlyle Group, when it was James Jebbia and Corp and whoever the fuck, they probably had people in there. They've definitely had some form of venture capital, because how could you not, right? If you had so many stores, and the amount of money they were doing even before Carlyle was probably insane. I mean, we know they were worth up to $1.2 billion before getting bought. Now, it doesn't really mean anything at all, because likely what'll happen is either VF Corp owns Supreme or they sell Supreme. Now, what could happen with Supreme? Could James Jebbia reacquire the brand, take over ownership again? I don't think so. I think likely what's going to happen is Supreme will be either bought by someone else or will spin off into its own entity and be run by its own board and have its own company. Can you imagine if Supreme was on the stock exchange? Now that's a stock that no matter what, I would definitely buy and shill for, because who doesn't want to buy $SUP? Long story short, there are rumors that Supreme is being sold by VF Corp because Goldman Sachs has come in there with a person or individuals to look at VF Corp's portfolio of products, because VF Corp has been losing money for the past 5 years. They're down about 84% from their all-time high in 2020. They just need to bounce back. This company has been around since 1899, so they are long-standing, and they have 26,000 employees. I hope no one gets fired from VF Corp, though I don't really know anybody. It would suck to see if, Supreme getting sold led to someone being fired, but I don't think that's really how it works when you're a conglomerate that owns a bunch of brands. It's just business at the end of the day, and all they want to do is make money for their shareholders. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. A little bit different, talking a little bit more about economics and finance. So if you like this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. It's been your boy Thomas, and I'm out. Peace and butt grease. See ya.